The Locked On Podcast Network presents the NFL Big 3 in 30. The three biggest stories in the NFL from our local experts at the Locked On Podcast Network. We bring you the real story, why it matters, what's next, who wins the big game, and more, all in 30 minutes. The NFL Big 3 in 30 starts now with the biggest story in the NFL.
Derrick Henry signs a massive extension with the Ravens.
You are Locked On Ravens, your daily Baltimore Ravens podcast.
Derrick Henry signs a massive extension on NFL schedule release night. And I know there's controversy on NFL schedule release night, but look, this was a deal that a lot of people were hoping would get done. It felt like the first domino to fall, or at least hopefully to fall. So Derrick Henry officially a member of the Ravens through the 2027-2028 season. It's a 2-year extension for Derrick Henry. This coming first from Adam Schefter. It is a 2-year extension, $30 million. So you're looking at $15 million per year on this extension, and $25 million of that is fully guaranteed. So it's a historic contract for running back over 30. It's the most money for running back over 30, according to Adam Schefter. And look, Henry's a guy that this absolutely had to get done for. Brian McFarland, who we actually had on the show last week, and he talked about a Derrick Henry extension. He said that was the one that made the most sense to happen. So if you've been listening to Locked On Ravens, you knew this might be coming down the pipeline, and you knew that this would be the first extension that was to happen. Brian says, and we don't know the structure at the time of this recording yet. We're recording pretty soon after the news actually broke. But he says that this would clear up, if his structure was correct on what he put together, it would create about $4 million in cap space for the Ravens in 2025. Now, again, not sure how accurate that number is right now because, Brian does note here that he wants to see how close he got on the structure of the deal, but it feels like it'll be around that much money, maybe a little more, maybe a little less. I'm not sure yet, but Albert Breer putting in the cash flow of the deal here for Derrick Henry, where his 2025 year, this upcoming season is $14 million of fully guaranteed money, 2026, $11 million of fully guaranteed money, 2027, $12 million of fully guaranteed money. So Breer notes here, Henry had 1 year and $7 million left. So he gets $18 million for the extra year with the team and getting the option year in 2027. So I'm not sure if there is an option on this. I mean, again, I think that for you, if you're Baltimore, I don't know, like player options or anything, but the fully guaranteed not being there in 2027 means that there's wiggle room where if it doesn't work out in 2026 or something happens, there's the option for Baltimore to get out in 2027. So could just be a 1-year extension when it's all said and done, depending on how Henry's career goes and, what the next 2 years hold for him. But I mean, let's be honest, Henry showed no signs of slowing down. And, I see a lot of people super excited about this. Edgar, we got King in here. Primetime saying lots of money for a 30-year-old running back, but let's hope it works out. Yeah, it is a lot of money. And I see Cam talking about, Kevin, do you find it interesting he got a pay raise considering his age and position, or is he being so underpaid this year that it only made sense for a pay increase? Cam, I lean the latter on this one. Just because, with the Barkley, if the Ravens had gotten Henry done this extension before Barkley, it would have been less money. But as is with all positions in the NFL, I mean, we saw this with the quarterback position with Lamar, if you remember that whole situation where, guys were getting signed to extensions before Lamar, and that increased the price on Lamar Jackson. Now, I guess it was a little different in that situation if you want to compare Barkley and Henry, because obviously Barkley is a lot younger at this point than Derrick Henry is in the running back position. There are those preconceived notions, but it'd be one thing if Henry showed any sign of fatigue or, like he wasn't the same player. And while I'm not saying Derrick Henry at 31 years old is in, the peak of his prime, he's just beginning his prime, he still is a top running back in this league. I mean, he's at least top 2 in my opinion. Some people put Saquon over him, some people put Henry 1. Like, to me, he's an unquestioned, depending on how you feel about Barkley, unquestioned top 2 running back in this league. And Primetime saying he stays healthy, that's always a positive. And look, I'll bring up Derrick Henry's stats here because I do want to just go over, and this is something I always marvel at when talking about Derrick Henry. Derrick Henry has been one of the most used running backs in the NFL over the course of his career. And that didn't change in 2024 yet. 325 carries in Baltimore, 1,921 yards, and obviously 16 rushing touchdowns last season, along with his almost 200 yards receiving and two receiving touchdowns. But you look at Henry's career, that 325 for him was actually the third most in his career in terms of carries. He had 378 in Tennessee in 2020, 349 in 2022 in Tennessee. He had the year of 325. He had 303. He had 219, 215. Derrick Henry in 9 years has had 2,355 carries. That averages out over 17 games, 294 carries per season. Now, the remarkable thing about this for him is that he rarely misses games. He rarely gets injured. Over the course of his career, we're going to do some quick math here on Locked On Ravens. He has missed 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, right around 11 games. I'm not sure when the NFL went to 17 games, so I might be off by a game or two because I'm counting some as 16 games and some as 17 games. But regardless, Henry, 15 games, 16 games, 16 games, 15 games, 16 games, 8 games, 16 games, 17 games, and 17 games. The guy barely misses time. And we've seen how he puts so much attention and effort into his body, spends so much money on his body to make sure that he is ready for every NFL season. He puts so much care on it, and he's someone that really cares about being in his best shape. So I am okay with this deal. Now, that's not to say there aren't risks with it, where Henry is 31 years old. It's not like we're talking about a 26-year-old Derrick Henry here, but it would feel different if we saw signs like, for example, the big example of this is probably Mark Ingram. Right now, Ingram didn't sign an extension with the Ravens, but he came in 2019 and he had that 15 total touchdown season. He was awesome. 2020, he fell off a cliff. He was bad in 2020. And I love Mark, right? Mark was awesome for the Ravens on the field, in the locker room, but there was a significant drop-off in Mark, I think, that year. Let me confirm it real quick. But Mark, I think, turned 30 during that 2020 season. And that's, that's the age. Yeah. No, okay, so 2019, Ingram was 30. And that was his year. He had 10 rushing touchdowns, 15 receiving touchdowns. Then 2020, he was 31, and he missed time with injuries. The yards per carry numbers went down. All the efficiency numbers went down. It was bad. So there are a bunch of different scenarios that this could end up playing out. And yeah, Rick, 2021, I appreciate you for clarifying that. I feel like this makes sense, though. Right? Henry's a guy that even if he showed a little sign of slowing down, like if he does that this season, that still is a great year for an NFL running back, right? Even if you factor in and you want to bake in a little bit of a drop-off for Derrick Henry in 2025, which I personally am not doing. I think Derrick Henry still is in tip-top shape and is still a very high-quality running back. It's fine for me. Like, yes, the almost fully guaranteed aspect of it in terms of $25 million of that money being fully guaranteed, okay. But those are the things that you have to do now that a guy like Saquon Barkley has already signed. And you know what? James Cook is breathing heavy, kind of wondering, hey, when is it going to be my turn here, right? He's kind of breathing down the back of the Bills' neck saying, where's my money? Where's my deal? And now this actually hurts Buffalo. This deal hurts the Bills. Right? And that's just the nature of it. It's the nature of extensions. We talked about it with Kirby Joseph when he signed his deal with the Lions. Kyle Hamilton becomes a bit more expensive. If a center signs before Linderbaum and he breaks Creed Humphrey's mark, that will make Linderbaum more expensive. So the Ravens in this process actually hurt an AFC rival in doing so. And that, to me, is just the nature of the business here. Henry is an anomaly, I feel like, in terms of these running backs. And look, literally, physically, this man is ridiculous. Like, he's just a mammoth of a man. He's incredible. But just the way that he's been able to stay healthy with his workload and be a productive running back. I mean, this man, last year in his age 30 season, and again, Lamar Jackson's in that backfield, and I hated that I hated that conversation we had to have so many times about, oh, Henry's only doing well because Lamar, and Lamar's only doing well because of Henry. Can't both guys help each other? Can't situations be good and guys play well and, it not have to be torn down? Can't we just build up both guys here? Henry averaged 5.9 yards per carry. 5.9. That was a career best by him by half a yard. His only 2 other years with over 5 yards a carry, 5.4 and 5.1. Don't you see what you can do if you put some good offensive linemen like a Linderbaum and Stanley and Rosengarten behind Derrick Henry or in front of him and Ricard, right? It's a good situation. And guess what? People tend to thrive in good situations. That's exactly what Derrick Henry did. And I'm not going to take that away from him because he had a better team than he had in Tennessee. That Tennessee offensive line was awful during his final years there. And people are saying, man, look what Derrick Henry, look what he's trying to do with what he has. It's not great. Put a competent offensive line, a competent quarterback, a competent offense around Derrick Henry, and he'd be awesome. And then it happens, and everyone's like, oh, well, now he's just being made by the offense. He's not actually good. Make up your mind, man. Come on now. Henry, I'm very pleased with this deal. It had to happen. And plus the fact that Henry has enjoyed his time so much with the Ravens so far, I mean, that makes it all the sweeter, right? Where he's said that he would ideally like to retire as a member of the Ravens. He had a lot of fun in his first year in Baltimore. He's gushed about Lamar Jackson and this team and, the pedigree, the organization. That's a guy you want in your locker room. And you know what? If you have to overpay, and I'm not saying this is a quote unquote overpay, but if you have to overpay by $1 million or $2 million in a deal like that, I'm fine with it. Because those are the types of players I think you want in your locker room, you want on the field for you. And again, if it all goes poorly, it essentially is just a 1-year extension. And that money is fully guaranteed in 2026, as Albert Breer noted. And then after that, in 2027, you have the option, if you're the Ravens, to get out of it. And that's usually how extensions like this work, where you kind of figure out the money in terms of a way where you can get out of it after a certain amount of years. And for Baltimore, that is going to be 2027. So best case scenario, Henry has 3 more awesome years, retires a Raven, or even keeps going after that if he's still really good. But, in the event there is a bad scenario, which is not entirely out of the realm of possibility, you have to account for it with everybody, then Baltimore still has a way to get out of the deal.
The NBA playoffs roll on, and FanDuel is giving new customers an incredible way to get in on the action right now. When you join FanDuel and place your first $5 bet, you'll get $250 in bonus bets if your bet wins. I love how FanDuel makes it easy to bet, whether it's picking your favorite team or diving into player props, from 3-pointers to steals to assists. There's just so many ways to bet your favorite props. Plus, after the game tips off, you can even combine live prop bets into a same-game parlay for a chance to win big. You can place your first $5 bet on today's lone NBA game. The Nuggets, a game away from elimination, are 4.5-point home dogs to the Thunder. Don't miss out. Head to FanDuel.com and claim your $250 in bonus bets today. Elgton Jenkins is not working with the team right now in the offseason.
You are Locked On Packers, your daily Green Bay Packers podcast.
Elgton Jenkins not part of the offseason program right now. Packers offensive coordinator Adam Stenavich asked about this, said he believes Elgton Jenkins is open to playing center and that him not being with the team right now is not related to the question of whether or not Elgton Jenkins is going to be a center. This is not quite the level of Jair Alexander weird, but this is getting weird. Because Brian Gutekunst said on the record that they want Elgton Jenkins to play center. And they signed Aaron Banks for a lot of money. Now that's likely if this is contractual, and I'm going to speculate here for a reason. If this is contractual, if that's the reason Elgton Jenkins is not at camp, I get it. And I'm on his side. I don't just get it. I don't just understand. I'm with him. You are paying Aaron Banks for the next 4 years, and you don't want to commit to me, a Pro Bowl caliber guard, the stabilizing force in your offensive line essentially since I showed up when you drafted me in the second round in 2019. I have been a rock for this organization. I played multiple positions. I played out of position. I've done everything you asked me to do. And I know going into 2026 that I'm going to save you $20 million on the cap if I get cut. And now you want me to change positions to make me potentially less valuable to teams out there because as a center, first of all, there's only 32. And second, the guards are the positions that teams are paying, not centers. Not that good centers aren't valuable and aren't getting paid, but it's guards that are making $20, $25 million a year right now. If I'm Elgton Jenkins, I have every reason to go, no, you don't get to pay Aaron Banks and not take care of me. The good news for Elgton Jenkins is for all the reasons I just discussed, for the cost on the cap, it makes sense for the Packers to extend him, to find a way to say, hey, look, we hear you. Here's some money. The problem with that is you got to pay Zach Tom too. So how do you balance all of these things? The Packers rarely hand out third extensions or third contracts, second extension. So you have your rookie contract, you get an extension. The Packers are loath to give that third deal. You have to be a special kind of player to get it. I think Elgton Jenkins falls into that Chad Clifton category. He's younger, much younger than Chad Clifton was when Chad got a third contract in Green Bay. So I think from that standpoint, it makes sense. But if you want me to move to center and give up some value for when you might cut me in a year, then I want some assurances. I want to get paid. And if I'm the Packers, I would consider doing that. The problem is there is all of this potential trickle down. So, okay, let's say Jordan Morgan wins the left tackle job this year, which I do think is the Packers' preferred outcome. You've got Rasheed Walker as a swing tackle, and then he hits the market. You're going to get a monster comp pick for him because he's going to get $20 million in the open market. I mean, 15 at least, but probably 20, given what some of these guys got. Sean Ryan's probably going to hit the open market. You would think that's where Anthony Belton could slide in. And then you've got Zach Tom locked up. Aaron Banks is already locked up. And then you've got Elgton Jenkins. The Packers have shown a willingness to go into a year, even a year they think they can win the Super Bowl with a rookie playing center. You go back to 2014, they use a 5th round pick, not even a high pick, a 5th round pick on Corey Linsley. He starts from day one on a team that could have won the Super Bowl and didn't not win because of Corey Linsley. And then coincidentally, Corey Linsley out the door. And now you get Josh Myers, 2021, in a year where you can win the Super Bowl. You got a rookie day one starter at center. So the Packers have shown a willingness to say, we like our guards, we like our tackles. Let's go. There's another option here. Just walk with me for a second. Let's say Jordan Morgan wins that left tackle job. Rasheed Walker walks. Aaron Banks is your starting left guard. What if Anthony Belton is your future right tackle? And Zach Tom becomes your future center? Does that work? What complicates that is you're still short. You're still short of body. So, okay, if you let Elgton Jenkins go, you don't have a center. Well, if you let Anthony Belton play right tackle, because I think he can be a tackle in the NFL, and you move Zach Tom to center, well, now you don't have a right guard because Sean Ryan. So if the point is you don't want to be paying more than 3 of these guys at once, or really it could be the case that if Morgan and Belton are going to be your starters, and then you let Elgton Jenkins walk and you draft somebody, you could only be second contracting 2 of your 5 offensive linemen. I don't get the impression, though, that the Packers want to skimp at offensive line. That's not what the last 2 years suggest. A first-round pick and a second-round pick on offensive linemen. They've already handed out a second contract to Elgton Jenkins. I anticipate them handing out a second contract to Zach Tom. So regardless of where Zach Tom is going to play, he's going to get a new deal. So they're loading up for bear here. This is not about, they're not going to put assets into it. This is not the Seahawks where they're just like, figure it out. That's not what's the history here tells us. So I would be surprised if they're like, well, we can just ham and egg it. I don't think it is unreasonable for Elgton Jenkins to say, you just paid this guy who is objectively worse than me and probably projects to be worse than me at my spot over the next 3 years. Like, imagine your company hired someone to do your job and said, we want you to do this other adjacent job. And we're going to pay them more money than we were paying you, even though, let's say you work in sales, your sales numbers were and are likely to continue to be better. You'd be going, excuse me, no, give me a raise. Now, I don't know that that's what's happening, okay? But that would make sense given everything I just laid out and given that he's not at OTAs. I don't want to put words in anyone's mouth, so I'm not going to speak for Elgton Jenkins, but if that's the reason he's gone, I get it. He's right. But we have to start planning for these eventualities to think, okay, what could the Packers' plan here be? And so what makes sense in terms of outcomes? There's nothing like the energy of a live game. Whether it's catching a last-minute Major League Baseball showdown or soaking up the excitement of an NBA matchup, finding great seats at a great price, though, that used to be a challenge until I found Gametime. With last-minute deals, all-in pricing, and the lowest price guarantee, Gametime takes the guesswork out of buying tickets. Plus, ticket prices actually drop as the beginning of the game gets closer, so you can score amazing seats at a great price. Take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Gametime. Download the Gametime app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDON for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem code LOCKEDON for $20 off. Download Gametime today. What time is it? Gametime.
Well, the Philadelphia Eagles 2025 schedule has officially been released.
You are Locked On Eagles, your daily Philadelphia Eagles podcast.
The 2025 schedule for the Philadelphia Eagles has been officially released just now at 8 o'clock. The entire NFL dropped their schedules like an avalanche on Twitter. Although we kind of knew most of the schedule before the 8 o'clock announcement. A lot of these leaks and confirmed reports were already out there, but here it is, officially confirmed. The Eagles 2025 schedule at home against the Dallas Cowboys, week 1. The first month of the year, tough. At Kansas City, home against the Rams, at Tampa Bay, then a little bit of a break, I would say, in the schedule before the bye week. You get the Broncos, the Giants, the Vikings, and the Giants before a week 9 bye. Then after that, a couple tough road games at Green Bay, home against Detroit, at Dallas, you're home for Chicago against Black Friday, at the Chargers, home against Vegas, and then at Washington, at Buffalo, and home against the Commanders. So a lot to get into about this schedule. For me, my overall thoughts on the balance of this schedule is good. I'm actually pretty happy with the way it's balanced out from a strength of schedule perspective when it comes to like tough stretches. I don't think there's any 2023 like gauntlet round of this schedule where you just play 4, 5, 6 really tough games in a row, a lot of them on the road. Like, I don't think there's any crazy bad road stretches this year. I don't think they got screwed with a lot of short weeks. Overall, I don't hate it. I thought the NFL actually balanced this one out pretty well for the Eagles, all things considered. When you take into account they do have a first-place schedule, and it is a really tough schedule no matter how you look at it. It wasn't going to be very balanced no matter what when it comes to, like, gimme games. There weren't going to be a lot of easy stretches. But I wouldn't say there's, like, again, a month and a half stretch where you're like, I don't know how they're going to make it out of there alive, like we kind of felt in the 2023 season. For me, what do I like about this schedule the most? I think the first thing is a week 9 bye week. As I said on the episode yesterday, I do not like an early bye, especially with a 18-game schedule. You have 17 games, 18 weeks overall, just one bye week, only one bye week in the playoffs now too, so your chances of getting a bye in the playoffs is very difficult, even if you're a great team. Last year, the Eagles had a franchise record-setting 10 straight wins, and they still did not get the 1 seed over the Detroit Lions. So when you add all those things together, I personally like to have a later bye week. I think there should be 2 bye weeks in the NFL, especially if they eventually go to 18 games, which they're going to. But if there's only going to be 1 bye, I'm really glad this year it's not week 5 like it was in 2024. Week 9, I think that's perfect, right? You have a home game against the Giants, then you do have a bye week before you head on the road in a tough matchup against Green Bay, and then the stretch run comes. So, I mean, that's pretty much halfway through the year, right? I mean, that's 8 games in. So you have 9 to go, pretty much halfway through. I think that's a perfect spot to have your bye week. So that was a main thing that I really liked about the Eagles' 2025 schedule. Week 5 last year, that's just far too early for a bye, although the Eagles desperately needed it last year. From an injury perspective, having that break later on in the year is really, really crucial because we've seen the Eagles 3 different Super Bowl runs, 2017, 2022, 2024, how injuries can either really help you or can really hurt you depending on the health of your football team in making that run. So that's my main takeaway in a positive perspective, is that I really like the week 9 bye. I also think, although it's not ideal to start off against the Cowboys, Chiefs, Rams, Buccaneers, like that's a really tough first month of the season, I do like before the bye week that you kind of have this easier stretch in your schedule for a month straight. You're at home against Denver, and they're a playoff team, but when you look at the Eagles' really tough first-place schedule, that is one of the quote-unquote easier matchups in 2025. Then you're on the road against the Giants. You're on the road against Minnesota, who, again, like the Denver Broncos, a playoff team last year, but I think they overachieved in 2024. They have a different quarterback this year in J.J. McCarthy, who's basically a rookie. He was redshirted with that injury in 2024. You go on the road to Minnesota, then you're at home again against the Giants, and then you have a bye week. I like that stretch as well to kind of gain some momentum before the bye, and then you're ready for the stretch run. Those 4 games, I think, are broken up pretty nicely after a really first tough month of the season in September. And then what I also like is there weren't a lot of like really short weeks, like, oh, the Eagles have a quick turnaround. They have, a Monday night game and then there's Sunday at 1:00, or, there wasn't anything really like that. For me, the thing I like a lot about the schedule as well is, I want to circle right here. It's Bears at home, Black Friday, and then you don't play again until the following Monday night against the Los Angeles Chargers. So that Friday game to Monday, that stretch is huge. You basically have another bye week. I mean, you have more than a week off after that Chicago game on Black Friday. So, yeah, I think it's a little bit of a tighter schedule going from Dallas to Chicago, but I think that's really nice that the Eagles will kind of have almost a mini bye week after a month of play after their first bye week, week 9. So that's another thing that I really like about this schedule. So those are my 3 main positives: is the week 9 bye. I like that month stretch they have before the bye week against Denver, New York, Minnesota, and then New York again. And then I think that Chicago to LA Friday to Monday turnaround is really nice because it almost essentially gives you a second bye week later on in the year, which again is extremely pivotal for a playoff run. What I don't like about this schedule, it is kind of weird the way the NFL structured some of this for the Eagles. Number 1, that stretch run in September: Dallas, Kansas City, Los Angeles, Tampa Bay. That's a difficult start to an NFL season. And again, look at that Eagles schedule. It's difficult. Like, pretty much every team on paper looks pretty good. There's no gimme game. Like, oh yeah, that's the obvious one. Like, even last year, you would circle the Panthers game and you say that should be a rout. Like, they just should take care of business. This year, what is that game? It's not the Vegas Raiders anymore with adding Geno Smith and Ashton Genty and re-signing Max Crosby. I guess that's one of the easier matchups. I guess it could be Minnesota, but they won 14 games last year, and I like J.J. McCarthy. I think he could be a good quarterback. The New York Giants, I guess, would be the easiest game on your schedule, but I'm kind of a Jackson Dart guy, and if he starts with the way they improved that defensive line, adding Abdul Carter to Brian Burns and Kayvon Thibodeau and Dexter Lawrence, like the New York Giants might not be a pushover in 2025. So overall, the schedule in general looks extremely difficult, but I normally like to have an easier start of the season than an easier finish. And the fact that they go, at home against Dallas isn't super tough, but the Cowboys are a good team, an NFC East rival that you're starting off the season with. Then you're on the road in Arrowhead week 2 in a Super Bowl 59 rematch at home against the Rams, who I think are the second best team in the NFC. And then that vaunted Tampa Bay game at Buccaneers. We know how that normally goes for the Eagles, especially in September. Don't love that the Eagles got handed a really tough 4-game stretch run in September. Like, just not a fan of that part of the schedule. And also, what are we doing with these 2 out of 3 weeks you're playing the same NFC East rival? That's happening twice. Like, why are you playing the Giants week 6 and week 8, and then you're playing the Commanders week 16 and week 18? Like, it's a 17-game schedule. We couldn't have stretched this thing out a little bit more when it comes to division matchups. I don't love that once, let alone twice. I'm not really sure what the NFL was doing there, so I didn't like that part of it either. Also, just overall, hate that there's so few games on Sundays. I know they're Super Bowl champions and they're going to be in a lot of prime times, but 2 Thursday night games, 2 Monday night games, a Friday game, a Saturday game. For somebody that has to do a podcast for a living after all these games, and I'm up super late for these shows like that. So a personal gripe about the schedule, my God, could we get a Sunday at 1:00, 2 Thursday nighters, 2 Monday nighters, a Friday game, a Saturday game? That's ridiculous. That's absolutely crazy. Also, no back-to-back home games this year. Like, I like that it's balanced out, that there's not a lot of tough road stretches where, 3 of 4 games are on the road. You don't really have much of that. But the Eagles are not at home at the Link in back-to-back weeks once this entire year. So that was kind of clunky too. But overall, I don't hate this schedule. I feel like it's spread out pretty well, all things considered. It was going to be a tough schedule no matter what on paper. Not all these teams are going to be as good as they were last year, so it might not be as difficult as it looks. But overall, I don't hate it. I just think that start of the season is going to be really crucial for the Eagles. At home against Dallas, at Kansas City, home against the Rams, at Tampa Bay. Those first 4 games, those are really critical. That's what I'm circling, especially on this 2025 schedule.